you hear me? From your reaction, I could tell you didn't know that this is a rendition of Adele's song, Hello, but that's okay. I would not take it personally. I'm inviting you, please, to close your eyes for 1 minute. Close your eyes, please. And I'm kindly asking you to think about 3 words or images you associate with Arabs and Muslims. 3 words, 3 images. 30 seconds left. You can open your eyes. Thank you. I was born in the mid-70s in Morocco, in a wonderful family, very supportive family. Both my parents are Moroccans. Some people may ask me, where are your parents from? And I will say my mom was born in the suburbs of Casablanca. My father, my late father, was born in southern Morocco, then moved as a teenager to Casablanca. And we were in a family that took a lot of pride in its Arab culture and heritage. We loved the culture, the food, the music, literature, history, politics. And as you could tell from the pictures, the ice cream outings, being with family and friends, loving books, and everything was wonderful about it. When I decided to move to the US to pursue my higher education, I got the same question, where are you from? And I would say, from Morocco. And people would say, where is Morocco? And I would say, Morocco is in North Africa. It has a majority of Muslims. And it is also an Arab country, although 50% of the population that lives there is not Arab, but Amazigh, or previously referred to as Berbers. And people would say, but actually you don't look really Arab. Or you don't really look Muslim. Or, oh, okay. And then they will move on. Some other people would say, oh, Morocco, I love Morocco. And I was like, oh, great. We love the beaches, beautiful beaches. Do you speak French? Of course. Yeah, I do speak French. And then they would say, how is your crazy princess? And then I would stop. I was like, we have a king, we have princesses, but the craziness is not really relevant. And they're like, no, her name is Stephanie. You know the stories of the boyfriends and all these things? And we're like, oh, that's Monaco. So they confuse Monaco with Morocco. At other times, I had people come to me and speak automatically in Spanish, thinking that I was either Latina or Hispanic. And when I would spend 2 hours of my time straightening my hair, as I did today, they would think that I was Greek, Italian, you name it. And you may be surprised that that didn't really bother me, because I'm a wonderful person, I'm very kind. I'm also non-confrontational. Now, if my husband was here instead of being at home now, hopefully watching me, and watching our 2 wonderful daughters, probably he would not agree, but that's okay. You can vote for me in a couple of years, I'll come back to tell you that story, okay, at TEDx as well. So all these wonderful things happened, and I felt really flattered that people were getting some interest in me, really to know me, to my roots, my home country. But with 9/11, things changed. It was a tragic event, and it is still a tragic event. So many lives were lost. So many stories were lost. So many people were left behind. And that all traumatized me, but equally important was the fact that there were images in different media outlets about Arabs and Muslims as terrorists, again and again and again. And when 9/11 happened, I was doing my PhD work at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's a wonderful campus, a wonderful community. I'm very grateful to that community for their support. My everyday life didn't change, but my concern became not only scholarly, but also personal. What are the sources of these stereotypes? Where do they come from? Are they as natural as they may seem? And maybe to help us with some of these answers, we can go back to 2 particular studies. The first one is by Jack Shaheen, who is considered an iconic figure in media studies. And in this particular book, which turned into a documentary in 2006, he surveyed 900 Hollywood films from the late 19th century up to 2000. And the study is really complex, but I'm going to reduce it into two main points. Number one, he found out that out of 900 Hollywood films, only 45 films portrayed Arabs and Muslims as regular guys, which means family histories, dads, moms, children, and so on and so forth. And again, out of 900 Hollywood films, only 12 portrayed Arabs and Muslims in a positive way. The second thing that he realized is that most of these roles fit into two categories. So for women, they were portrayed as exotic, as mysterious, as part of the harem. I'm sure when you think about the harem, you're thinking about this man who is laying down on a couch, surrounded by women serving him and fulfilling his sexual desires and other desires. So that was that image. And there was also the image of Arab and Muslim women being victimized, oppressed, battered by their male partners. The second category was about Arab and Muslim men who were oppressors, violent, aggressive. The sheiks means people who were having a lot of money but didn't know what to do with that money that was based on oil. And then you have the image of the terrorists. Now, the second study was done by Professor Evelyn Al-Sultani, who was a professor of Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And she took over where Jack Shaheen actually stopped, and she surveyed many TV shows and films from 9/11 up to 2012. And she found out that the roles changed a bit. So now, instead of those two big categories for men and women, that we have three categories. The first one, where we portray Arab men and Muslim men as terrorists. So that didn't change a lot. The second category was about Arab and Muslim men as being victims of the stereotypes by American society, losing their homes, losing their businesses, losing their lives. The third category was about these Arab and Muslim people, American people, who were enlisted in the Navy or in the US Army in general, who joined the CIA, the FBI, because they believed they had to prove their Americanness, and they had to choose either to be Arab Muslim or to be American. The second thing that she found out is that most of these roles played in relation to Arabs and Muslims were actually by Hispanics, by Latinos, and by South Asians, not by Arabs, not by Muslims most of the time. The second source of these stereotypes is literature. Many of the writings about and by Arab writers and Muslim writers actually foster the same stereotypes. So if you take a book that is about, excuse me, an Arab woman or a Muslim woman, for instance, you will see this cover of a woman that is either oppressed or that is sexualized and exotic. Or you will see this caption that says, "A true story from the Middle East." Does this sound familiar? I'm sure that it sounds familiar for many of you because I cannot see you with the lights. So if you see true, that means that it's candid. They're trying to emphasize the fact that it is authentic. And of course, as human beings, we look for authenticity. And they say story, not stories, but one story, reducing all the stories to one. And the Middle East is referred to as if it's one actually country. And I'm sure that this sounds familiar in relation to Africa as also being one country. It's the same concept. Now, it would be very naive to think that these two sources are the only ones that are part of this stereotypical process. When we think about colonization in very crude terms, we think about these powers that come from the West to enlighten the savages, the uncivilized. We think about the colonizers bringing this ideal concept of democracy to people who don't know what democracy is. And ultimately, we expect people who are colonized to think, well, we're so grateful for colonization, thank you. It really helped us a lot. It helped the infrastructure. It helped build the countries and so on and so forth. Now, the fourth part, and that may surprise you, is that Arabs and Muslims themselves are responsible for these stereotypes and scattering these stereotypes. And here, because I'm at TEDx and I already talked about how wonderful I was, this is a moment that is not necessarily very wonderful, but I would share it with you. A couple of years ago, the summer of 2014, I was part of this amazing experience in DC. There's a 3 intensive week workshop in Karama, which is an organization for human rights for Arabs and Muslims, but really the society in general. And I met this woman from a country in the Middle East, and she was wearing the burqa, so covering everything except her eyes. And I remember the first week of that workshop, I kept harassing her with questions. Of course, I didn't know that it was harassment. Harassing her about how come that you are pursuing a master's in democracy and in diplomacy in particular, and still actually wearing the burqa. And I kept telling her stories that I heard about her country, being not necessarily very respectful of human rights, women's rights, and I kept sharing those stories that I heard in the news and the media and so on and so forth. She was very polite. She never kind of interrupted me. But then, in retrospect, after that first week, I tried to apologize in different ways, but I realized that my intentions actually were good. I tried to show her that I had interest in her country, in her story, but ultimately, I was just repeating the same stories that I was hearing again and again and again. I'm also going to share with you some of the stereotypes that I hear from the community itself, or the 2 communities, the Arab community and the Muslim community, about how they perceive sometimes themselves, or subgroups within the communities. So I will quote from time to time. So quote, "Don't get married to women from that Arab country. They are known to be loose." Or, "Be careful. Don't get married from that country. They're men, they steal children, take their passports, take them back home, never come back again." Or, "Be careful. These people from this part of the Arab world, they're actually almost European or French because they've been colonized by France for a long time. They forget about their Arabness." Excuse me. Or the last one, from some people who were colonized by France, "I wish I was still colonized by France because things will be a lot better." I'm sure you realize that these stereotypes are very shocking and they are very dangerous. And some of you may say, maybe that means that they are here to stay forever. And maybe to help us change that idea, I'm using a quote by Chimamanda Adichie, who actually delivered a wonderful TED Talk that you can find online, entitled "The Danger of the Single Story." And if you read the quote with me, the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. And I think when you look at that quotation, you will see that, number one, when you construct stereotypes about others, you are reducing the whole group to one particular instance in history. You're not allowing yourselves to listen to other stories. And ultimately, you're not seeing them as human beings, but you are seeing them as unhuman. You are dehumanizing the groups involved. And I will add another danger of stereotypes, and that is related to the conspiracy theory. In other words, if you are part of the group that is, in a way, the center of the stereotypes, and you hear problems said about your community, The easiest way to neglect those problems or marginalize those problems or dismiss the problems is to think that this is actually by the West. It's not really a problem. And I can talk about it quite freely when I do discuss honor crimes or crimes of honor. Many of my colleagues who are Arabs or who are Muslims will roll their eyes and they will say, oh, she's talking about this because she has a Western education. She's just telling us how we should behave. And that's, of course, incorrect. And I keep saying, yes, crimes of honor are not as exaggerated as they may seem sometimes in media outlets. But just to take an example, in X country, without the name in country, 12 women every year lose their lives under this stereotype or cliche of crimes of honor. 12 lives is just too many. And it should not be an excuse not to look at reality as such, not to self-criticize, and not to find the truth or the different truth. Now, some of you may ask, so what do we do about this? What are some of the solutions? And I would say if Oprah was here, I wish she was here, and my students say, oh my God, is she talking about Oprah again? Yes, I am. I had to put her somewhere. So if Oprah was here, she would say, mindful thinking. We have to be self-conscious about the way we think. We have to be self-conscious about the way we construct stereotypes. But because we are at TEDx, I'm going to use a different phrase. We have to dare to, and I coined actually a little acronym. It's called ELSE. E-L-S-E. E for education. We have to dare to educate ourselves. And in this particular context, we have to learn that Arab civilization, the Muslim civilization, is not only about destruction, about tears, about blood, about victimization, but the Arab civilization and the Muslim civilization contributed immensely and still does to the human civilization. And I put so many pictures in 2 slides. I wish I had more time to do more. But all these things show the contributions of both groups. Number 2, excuse me, while Arabs and Muslims are referred to as one group, they are 2 different groups. Arab is an ethnicity. Islam is a religion. There are more than 300 million Arabs around the world, and there is more than 1.4, 1.5 Muslims around the world. Number 3, stereotypes are just the appearance. What is inside is fear, discomfort, sometimes practicality, because it's easy to put people together and just refer to them. And to some extent, it's also about that sense of inferiority. People make stereotypes about themselves because they don't feel that they are worth something. Number 2, listen to other stories. We have to listen to others, even if that's outside our comfort zone. S, shatter the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling. It sounds familiar? The glass ceiling of academic institutions, of professional institutions, of law firms, of corporations, of governments, where we see more diversity. And when I say diversity, it's not only about ethnicity, it's not only about religion, it involves all the people who see themselves as minorities. And then the last one, establish a path. Start that path of what I will call the moral project. If you do believe that all of us deserve equity, then we have to practice equity. And we should not be silent when we see that that's not happening. Now, when I was honored with the nomination to join you today, I was very excited. And I spent some time thinking, what kind of topic should I choose from? And then I thought about my 2 daughters that you saw in the last slide, very cute, and my students, and I see some of you here in spite of the lights, so thank you. And I really thought, what's the legacy that I want to leave for them? What do I see at the center of my teaching every day? And that is, really, this sense of being proud of who you are, where you are from, but not be only comfortable with those labels, to go beyond the labels and not let yourselves be defined by those categories. We started with a 1-minute reflection, and I do ask you to go back to that 1 minute. So if you can close your eyes one last time, I promise the last time. One last time. And I want you to retrieve those 3 words or 3 images. Are they the same after this talk? I'm not asking you to share your answers, but just try to rethink about them. Are they different? You can open your eyes. Thank you for listening.